and welcome back to another episode of OHKO, a Pokemon VGC podcast. Another regional has just happened, a lot to be breaking down and talking about. As well, new events have been announced, so a lot to be talked about this week. My name is Sierra Dawn, joined here by my co-host, Joe Brown. We weren't at the regional. I stayed home and didn't really do too much. How's the last week been for you?
It's been going. First off, happy Friday to everybody. One of those rare Friday OHKOs. Hopefully everybody is enjoying it into the weekend. But I've been trying to be busy, trying to keep myself busy, trying to stick to my stream schedule and everything. Sometimes it's harder. Some days are harder to stick to than others, but so far I've been consistent. I haven't missed a day yet on my schedule. But I think, what was it? I feel like I did something this weekend, but I can't remember. It's all a blur. But we did go back and finally watch the Dortmund Regionals, so we can have a fun conversation about the top teams and the matches on stream and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been a good week.
Aren't we recording late at night too? Because you just came back from a One Piece event,
came back from top cutting my second local in a row. Yes, Sierra. Yes, that is correct.
Congratulations. Good stuff.
Thank
Good
you.
stuff.
I didn't get any good cards. By the way, every time I top cut, I'll get like 2 packs or whatever. I never get a hit.
You don't need any more cards. You're already top cutting.
It would feel good. It would feel rewarding if I got like a $20 card when it's like, oh, I earned that card,
Wants to top cut the event and wants to get all the good cards. Like, come on. Can't have your cake and eat it too. But yeah, the episode was a day delayed because I watched like a little bit of Dortmund, but when is the Europe regionals? They start so early. There was one night I was up so late playing video games that Dortmund started and I still hadn't gone to bed. So then I just put it on the TV while I was sleeping. I also had a dream that Maddie had lost in the finals to someone who had like darker hair and like facial hair and stuff, and then it happened, which I think is like
premonition. It wasn't a dream.
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing, and like I tried to tell like regurgitate that, and he's like, "Why do you have a dream about that?" It's like because it was on the TV while I slept. Like I don't know if anyone else is like
dream about another man.
Oh, like if you're watching a TV show while you're sleeping, like yeah. I don't know, like you dream about the TV show. So yeah, I had a dream that Maddie lost the finals, and then he got absolutely obliterated in finals, and I felt so bad. But
I feel like it would have been funnier if like you're sitting there like, I had a dream like Charlie was an axe murderer and he was like, I was in the woods.
But like wearing mouse hold ears.
Exactly. He's got the mouse hold ears with his axe. And like, it was more of a nightmare than anything.
Oh my gosh. I'm just watching like the dreams, just like I'm watching Dortmund Regionals at the event and then Charlie comes out from behind the curtains like with the mouse hold ears. I don't know. That was, yeah, but I only watched a little bit. Because that was the long story short. I only watched a little bit of it. So we had to go back and watch through it because there's no point in having an episode of OHKO talking about the Dortmund Regionals if we didn't actually watch. So what was your, like, this is second now, like, broadcasted regional. How are you still feeling about the format? Like, how do you feel like watching through it? I felt like, personally, Baltimore was more fun to watch.
Well, I would say for starters, those British gentlemen did a great job. Gotta give the crew,
yeah, I mean the matches, not because credit. They did
for
that.
Sure.
No,
but I think there were multiple matches that I was, because I did a watch party on my stream on Wednesday of all of day 2 that like listening to like Charlie or Lee or like someone explaining a mechanic and I'm like, oh, that's right, I totally forgot about that, because some of these Pokemon we really haven't seen in a while in VGC, right? In some of them never, and like Sneasler, and then some of them not in quite a long time, like I don't know, some others. But like I think there's a lot of interesting interactions in this format from a viewer perspective, and I do think a benefit, even if maybe as a player, you and I have openly talked about some of our struggles or frustrations as a player in this format, but as a viewer, I think games are more, for lack of a better word, like comebackable. I don't know, like there's a chance for you to come back in a losing position in this format more than some of our prior formats because the power level is less. So like if you're losing that, if you lose turn one, like you still have a nasty plot golden go in the back that gives you a chance to come back, like on a, however the game works out. So I think from a viewer perspective, I did enjoy all of the day 2 matches that there were like, oh man, this is over on turn 1. But I was like, oh wait, hold on. I think they can pull this one back and, come back and surprise it. So
I think too, part of that is because like, I do think that is an enjoyable part to watch. I feel like it's because we don't have like these big bad legendaries. So if somebody loses their legendary from the get-go and all of a sudden the other person still has their legendary, one's kind of a little better than the other. So it's pretty plain on paper. Whereas if everything's roughly the same, there's always going to be that comeback, or even just like setting up for an end game because this one Pokemon has a power level that's like okay, but you can sweep the rest of the team if you set up for circumstances. So you're kind of setting up for a later game. So that does make things interesting. I think I'm just over Duraludon. I'm over Sneasler. Like there is at Baltimore, it was all like, oh, like there is all these new fun Pokemon, and now it's, I don't know. I think the part of Reg H that I enjoyed watching was the fact that it was all so new. And then now it's like, oh, this is all old. I know that seems like a dumb reason, but it's kind of like, oh, we've seen these things before. There's a couple new cool things that haven't, but kind of on the same scale as any other regulation. Besides that, it was just like, oh, it's the same old, same old.
Back in Baltimore, this was so fetch, and now in Dortmund, it was no longer fetch. Which, by the way, as of recording, October 3rd, happy Mean Girls / Full Metal Alchemist Day to everybody who celebrated. But
oh my god, I didn't even realize.
On October 3rd, he asked me what day it was. But one of the things that's like, I've tried to get into Game Freak's mind here, Sierra, and that's probably a scary place to be because I don't know what's going on over there. But like giving a non-electric type a rain-reliant electric attack that increases its special attack before the attack, so it's not like Charge Beam or other moves. Like Power Up Punch hits neutrally and then gets the +1, right? Like, so you're giving a non-electric type the most broken electric type attack imaginable, and it boosts the damage before it even attacks the first time, and like it's just like inconceivable to me how they thought that was a good decision. Because you could say, all right, well, if you put it on Electros or Emolga, like, or I don't know, not Emolga, just a random, Electrode, whatever, you can say, all right, well, ground types are still immune to Electroshot, and then they're weak to ground in response, right? So ground types would be your counter. But Archaludon can change out of that ground weakness whenever it wants, into a fairy type, into a grass type, into a ghost type, into whatever it wants to do. So it's almost like it almost gets unpunished. Like, I just can't understand why they would give it such a strong move.
I forgot the part where electric types couldn't Terra. Because you're talking about these electric types being weak to ground and then talking about Archaludon and how it can terrasilize.
No, I know, but I'm saying... I'm aware electric types can Terra. I'm just saying that Archaludon, its typing is so strong, and then you're able to get... Like, there's literally only 2 answers to its typing, and whenever you want, you have a get out of jail free card because it's a bulky, super high BST Pokemon, to now you don't have a weakness anymore.
I'm just bugging you. It was just like, in my opinion, funny like phrase where it was like, Joe Brown doesn't know electric types can Terra.
Give it to an electric type. Why does Archaludon get
because
that?
stab electroshot's also dirty. I just don't like the here you can power up the move in one hit and it goes before. Like exactly we were talking with the power punch, like power up punch where it's afterwards and stuff. I think it's part when these newer Pokemon are coming along, you want to make sure that they're at a power level in which like some can be used because it's like the shiny new thing, right? Literally in Archaludon's case. And if you're already having Duraludon, which is like, I'm not gonna say strong, but like it's supposed to be okay. You can only really go up.
Generation, it was solid.
Yeah, like you can only really go up. I just like, I don't know. I don't even think Duraludon is like the massive issue. Like it is an issue. I don't enjoy it.
Every time I watch it on stream, I'm just like, man, like I wish this was another Pokemon. It'd be more enjoyable if this was another
Golden Go. Their golden child, literally 1,000 Pokemon. Let's just make this really busted steel type that can't get slept, status, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
Let's
there
give
was
it
one
this
match.
move, blah, blah, blah.
I can't remember if it was top 4 or top 8. I forget which match I was watching that I was like, oh, well, this game is just over because the opponent has an Amoonguss and the Amoonguss can't do anything to 3 of his Pokemon because like one's a grass type, one had safety goggles, and one was a Golden Go. And it was like, okay, cool. Well, his opponent only has 3 Pokemon in this game because for some reason we're just going to allow Golden Go to be immune to all status.
Yep, that's my biggest issue with things. But yeah, this is unfortunately not every Pokemon we hate and why. We do have a regional to talk about, which we'll talk about this Pokemon a little bit more. But going through the matches, I just gotta say, favorite moment, because I don't know another part in the episode where we can slot this in. Favorite moment, Fissure Dondozo on stream into a Focus Sash.
Into the Focus Sash. Feels
Focus
bad.
Sash. Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, if you hit Fissure into a Focus Sash, the Sash does activate, which I didn't know for the longest time, unfortunately, because, like, nobody used one-hit KO moves, right? And, like, I only started playing Sword and Shield. Nobody was using one-hit KO moves, so I don't know, I kind of just thought it just bypassed it.
You would think, right? That's like the logical thought is that Fissure is not doing damage, it is knocking out the Pokemon, right? Like you could think in your head as justification as to why Focus Sash wouldn't work. And I had people in chat were talking about it too, and they felt like Focus Sash shouldn't work. But like I don't know if people are youngsters or maybe less, haven't been playing for a long time like yourself or not, but like the Focus Sash should work that way because there were certain abilities back in the day in like Gen 3 and Gen 4 where like all they did was ignore OHKO moves. Like that was the whole ability. That was literally the whole purpose of it. And they got rid and they like kind of altered those a bit. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was one back in Gen 3 that like that was its job. Oh, this Pokemon can't get one hit. Like, all right, that seems like a terrible ability. But then they made the Focus Sash, and I think a Focus Sash technically in the code is like it prevents you from being knocked out while at full HP. So I do think it's fair they live on one, but it is kind of silly that you live on one from a one-hit KO move.
It's like because of the fact that when you get hit by Fissure, like the health bar goes down, it makes sense, but like it goes down technically for Perish Song and Focus Sash doesn't stop that. So then it's like the logic that I would think would work doesn't. And I don't think the move description says like take all the HP. Like I think it just says it's a one-hit KO. So that's where it's like kind of weird. I think realistically, because I don't want this to be more of an RNG game than it already is, I think Focus Sash should work as, the OHKO move, maybe just the description rewritten. And this is coming from somebody who played like Torkoal Fissure and like all of this stuff. And so like that was annoying. I go up against a Focus Sash and I'm like, shucks, yeah. I can't Fissure this. But I think it is kind of a good decision. But I do think it was like my favorite moment to be able to see that on stream. And like, I mean, at that point, it's just like YOLO, right?
Yeah, that was an awesome moment. I was dying laughing because like, if that's the one Fissure you hit all day and it's into a Focus Sash, you're like, all right, well, that's how the RNG breaks,
Yeah, it'd be like that. But what about you? Favorite stream moment?
Trying to think. I think which round was it with Fevzi with his Annihilate that his opponent had Electabuzz and they kind of I forget which round it was. Might have been top 8, I don't remember. But basically all 3 games he had the Mousehold Annihilate and then the Electabuzz was on the other side, and he had to like just call if Electabuzz was going to follow me, because if you follow me, it redirects the beat up into Electabuzz instead of Annihilate, and it was like just really intense with Fevzi all 3 games, and then so I think game one Fevzi taunted into Electabuzz's Protect, so it didn't work. He was trying to get the better of him, and then game 2 Electabuzz follow mead, and then I'm blanking on the mouse. I just said his name. Mousehold. Mousehold taunted correctly into the follow me. And then game 3, so you had 2 different outcomes. Finally, Electabuzz doesn't follow me, get the beat up off to get Annihilate going and just start sweeping everything. So I think like that head game, that back and forth in that best of 3 set was probably like my favorite interaction this weekend.
I get how that could be intense. But at the same time, It just sounds like so miserable to play. That goes back to some of these things are definitely more enjoyable to
Yeah, it was really
watch.
nice as a viewer. I didn't have to stress about making the right decision with my, my top 8 run on the line.
Yeah. Well, one more favorite moment from like the matches in general that I had, but Alex Soto's match in round 4, because Alex Soto like hard trigger, you know,
Yep.
and I always forget about this ability every time. Like you have certain crooks in like VGC, and this is one of them. Magic bounce. So his
Oof.
opponent has the Serena in and goes for taunt into the Indeedee. And so that Alex can't set trick room. Hard trick room. It's a hard trick room team. If he gets trick room up, he's going to like beat you. Like he's going to take you out back. Like you're not coming back to the regional. Like that's about it. So the Indeedee's in, the Serena's in, it goes to taunt. He swaps in the Hatterene, and then the taunt bounces back to the Serena. So then he's able to just set Trick Room for free within next turn. Like it was just like so sick. And then because of that, it also couldn't protect in Trick Room. So all of a sudden it was just dead. Like dead on arrival, literally. Like half the motherboards you order nowadays. So it was crazy. And it was game 3 as well. It's like there was no coming back from that. I think it was game 3. But yeah, it was kind of sick. Like I'm not a big fan of hard Trick Room. I would have been so sad if I was playing against it and like that had happened. But watching someone else do it, I'm just like, oh, okay, I see you. So that was cool.
Yeah.
Also, there's another Toad Scroll with Kilowattrel on stream.
I heard about this. How did this go?
Smoked. Julio Tarlo smoked.
Really?
Like instantly. Like, oh my gosh. There was one game because I was playing the game while like watching back through all these matches. And I look and the match is like done and I'm like, what? And I had to go back and I missed it a second. It was just like instant. It was crazy. So yeah, if you're seeing a lot of Toad Scroll, Kazooie and Typhlosion and Kilowattrel teams on the ladder, you know why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gross. But you're talking about the smoked matches. Let's talk a little bit more about Dortmund and talk about the finals. Cause so it was Vide going I can't say this last name. I'm so sorry. Going up against Maddie Morgan. And that was such a bad matchup for Maddie. That was such like a fast easy games for Davide. Like that was hard to watch.
Oh, I think that's what I was watching. I think that was the one where Amoongus was like, "Oh, it's literally unplayable," and he still, still brought the Amoongus, and you literally can't do anything to the team here. So yeah, because I think Davide like he had Golden go in, and then he swapped it out, and then the next turn just swapped it into the other slot that was getting spored, and he swapped Golden go right back into it. Like, and you're like, man, this Amoongus can't do anything, and I think. We would be remiss here if we did not at least acknowledge that Baltimore was won with Mousehold without Annihilate, and then here in Dortmund was won with Annihilate without Mousehold. I think I saw Santino tweet about it, and I liked it, and I hope other people like. He's like, wow, I guess these two Pokemon literally do not have to be attached at the hip on every single team ever. And I'm like, finally, it only took 2 years. We're all learning that it doesn't. Like, you don't have to have the other. Sure, they have great synergy together. There's no, like, I'm not saying don't run them together because it still is a successful strategy to put them together. But I want to see people expand. I want to see Annihilate teams with Grimmsnarl or with some, like we have Clefable on this winning team, right? Some other supportive Pokemon, just so you don't have to feel like you have to play Mousehold. So I think that is good for the meta that those two Pokemon they're like on a break. They're Ross and Rachel right now.
I don't even know like it's a break. I think it's a toxic relationship. Like they need to move on and find other Pokemon, and it's working well for them. Like they're thriving. This is their era. Like I don't know. But I don't know. The Annihilate, like, by itself, too, like, still just as annoying as ever. Annihilate was one of, like, the first Pokemon I really had a hatred for in Reg H. I hated it, like, prior, but it was never truly that bad. But, like, oh my goodness. Like, it's so annoying right now. And Golden Go as well. Also just omega annoying. But I am happy to see Garchomp Stonks on
Yeah.
the rise. Both
Let's
players had it
go.
in finals.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
I don't know where
Our
mine
chompy boy.
I don't know where mine is, but yeah.
You have a Garchomp plush? Is it the
Yeah.
same one? Is it the same
Yeah, the
tiny
sitting
one, or
cutie.
is it bigger?
I think it's the only Garchomp that exists.
Nice.
So
Let's
that's where
change
it
that. Hey, Pokemon. Let's change that. Let's make some more Garchomps. It's a cool Pokemon. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I found him.
oh, there he is.
Yep.
No, but I mean, I do think Garchomp is a pretty. I think it's like just a solidly strong Pokemon. You know what I mean? Like it's not divisive or match dependent like the way that Annihilate and Golden go. They might feel like super free sometimes and then might feel not that relevant. Where I do think Garchomp is one of those just generally useful Pokemon that you can probably 90% of your games make sure that it's one of the 4 Pokemon you bring on your team.
Yeah. I'm looking back through the stuff.
And this was Life Orb. This was a Life Orb one too.
Yeah. I got
Instead of
distracted
Lumberry.
trying to count like all the dragon Pokemon in
Oh.
Top Cut. Because we have the Hydreigon at the first place. Double Dragons on the team. So you got the Garchomp on the next one. And Dragapult's also having its day. 1.5 million Dragapult, Salamence, in top 8.
Oh, but we have Primarina, Sierra. We're good. We don't have to worry about dragon types. We have 60 speed Primarina.
When are we going to see a successful Dragon Cheer team with all these dragon Pokemon going around now? That's the real question.
Is that what Charlie used in the Grand Challenge with Kingdra? Because I saw that was in his predictions, was Politoed Kingdra, because he was using that. And did he use Dragon Cheer on that team for Kingdra? I can't remember, but I mean, I guess it could, like, if coaching is working on all these Sneaslers, I guess the Dragon Cheer could also work, right?
Yeah. Maybe I'll ask Ugarte really nicely if he can help me make a Dragon Cheer team.
I'm sure it's crossed his mind. I'm sure he thinks of every possibility, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are a lot of dragons, and as you know, as I jest, there's not a lot of great fairy types. If Primarina is on 30% of the teams to handle it, even the Clefable who won the regional, even with Moonblast, unless you're hitting a dragon type, it really doesn't do that much damage, like not even neutrally to stuff, because you're not investing in your special attack. So I think that does allow the dragon types to kind of go back to like the Gen 5 days of just like you use a dragon to beat another dragon. And then there were some interesting adaptions, like who was the Dragonite I saw on stream in day 2? His name I'm forgetting. It was Dragon Dance, Terra Blast, Terra Flying, Stomping Tantrum, Protect. So it was no E-Speed on the Dragonite, which I thought was pretty interesting. And it was multi-scale instead of inner focus.
Was it Pardini's or?
I can't remember.
Around 11 was Pardini.
Yeah. So I think that's cool if like Dragonite's gonna get away from the choice band Terra Normal E-Speed direction, just because Golden Go's a problem, Annihilate's a ghost type. There's so many other potential issues for you, Psychic Terrain and whatnot. So I'd love to see how that multi-scale Dragon Dance Dragonite team develops. But I think the top 8 teams, it was pretty fun, I would say, watching the Dortmund stream. There was some diversity. Some Pokemon were definitely a little more overwhelming than others, but I do like that there are a lot of different like offensive threats, and then maybe you're sharing the same support. You're sharing P2 and Amoonguss and Incineroar and whatever support Pokemon, but it seems like the attacker, like the Garchomp, the Annihilate, the Dragapult, the Dragonite, the Toxtricity, like the one main sweeper of the team is always changing.
Yeah, I think I don't know, like I said, I didn't enjoy the matches as much for this one as I did for Baltimore. I think the issue is that despite the fact that everything's on the same power level, that it's still kind of like people are like, oh, we're in this era where a lot more things are viable, or you're not having these one-sided matchups. And I think there was 3, maybe 4 different rounds on stream where it was done.
Yeah. There were,
including the grand finals.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the good close matches were good. But then all of a sudden you just see someone get absolutely smoked and you're like, cool, now there's an hour and 20 till like the next match. And like I wasn't happy with that match. And that's kind of the part of the format I don't really like, because maybe it's just because I've heard so many people say, oh, this one's so better than like Reg H. What G? I
Go,
like
go back. There you go. G, you got there.
G. Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying to
I
think.
saw the wheels turning. I saw.
I'm slowly getting there, but people are like, "Oh, like it's not as like one-sided as Reg G," and it's like, okay, then I'm still watching these one-sided matches. Like, are you just feeling that way, or like, is it actually true? That's kind of
Yeah.
my thing, because I'm just looking at some of these matches, and it's just not. I don't know. Some of
I
the
guess
games
it
just
is.
don't look fun.
I think it is a different perspective. Like if I was watching live compared to watching the VOD of like I was watching because I had to get through it to be prepared, right? Where if I was watching as a viewer, I'm like, man, another 2-0, another 40 minutes of downtime, like, but I'm able to just skip right through it, right, from game to game. So like I can appreciate the 2-0s while watching it in that perspective because I can appreciate the good plays being made and like Jamie Boyd telling me why it was awesome. Like, oh, that's a great point, Jamie. But if I'm watching live, then I'm just sitting here, on my phone for 40 minutes waiting for the next round to start. So I can understand why the 2-0s aren't as fun.
Well, even just like, I don't know, because Maddie's a really good player.
Yeah.
Still smoked in finals. But that's not on Maddie not being a good player. That's literally like the matchup's just a really difficult matchup too, right? And
Yeah.
that was the same way with a couple of the different matches. Like looking at like Julio going up against this Kilowattrel is just kind of like, okay, what can you do? There was no chance. So it's just that part. Because I definitely don't want to make it a thing of like getting the conversation of like the breaks on broadcast. Because like those with Swiss, like I know that sucks when we're working the event and we pick a match we're so excited for and it's a 2-0 and we're just like, man, it's just, I don't know. I haven't enjoyed some of these 2-0s. Like it hasn't felt as much as somebody outplaying as it has a team diff. Which then, why is it this format's amazing and the last one sucks? If like it's the same issue.
What I do think is interesting is I remember like I was on my phone, I was seeing the conversations over the weekend and everyone talking like Eviolite's the greatest held item of all time, and it might be because I don't even want to count Porygon 2 because we've known it forever, but like if we count Porygon 2 with Electabuzz and Magmar, that is was that 9? I think that's 10 or 11 of the top 16 teams have an Eviolite user on it. Now, if we keep Porygon off of it, it should be 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the top 16 teams have Magmar or what's his face, Electabuzz with Follow Me, and I think that's a really cool adjustment to the metagame as it's evolved. Is like, remember, wasn't it so cool in Reg G when like Adi and Alex Underhill and they brought that Electabuzz team to NAIC and what a neat concept. But now in Reg H you're like, oh my god, my team does not have a Magmar answer. Like what do I do?
What I will say the supportive Follow Me user and like what's being used because what you're valuing I think is really cool. So like you get the Fable, and I mean you can have something like, oh, Misty Terrain, oh, you just have a Moonblast against these dragon users, and then obviously being able to have something like an Unaware, being able to maybe skill swap it. But if you're looking at like the Electabuzz, you can get Electroweb, you get Speed Control. Magmar, you have Will-O-Wisp, you have this Burn, and it's cool to see those little interesting little tidbits about team building as opposed to it just being like, oh, well, it has to be a Clefairy. Oh, yes. You don't want to hit a Moonblast for 0 damage? Enjoy your 55% accurate Sing, I guess.
Oh, it's got to be a Moongus, or oh, it's got to be Fake Out U-turn, Rillaboom, and Fake Out Parting Shot Incineroar. Like, there's more opening, and obviously those are still great strategies. But like, we got to come up with a name for this duo, for the Magmar Electabuzz duo, because like this is a big glow up for these two Pokemon that they have evolutions and both of their evolutions are still not meta, and these are like Gen 1ers that like are finally relevant 27 years later or whatever. We need a name for this duo.
I don't know, something like with the ability Vital Spirit, because that's the reason they're good too. Like if these Pokemon did not have Vital Spirit, you would not see them.
but Static and Flame Body are also good too. So yes, Vital Spirit 100% is better in this context. Those are great abilities where you get a burn or you
in this format.
Well, for Shifu comes back, you're gonna throw your Surging Strikes 3 times into it. If he just rolls into town in Reg H.
Okay, enjoy getting spored.
Bro.
What are you gonna do? Take Eviolite
population bomb? 10 hit population bomb? That's essentially that's a guaranteed burn. I don't know the math on that, but I feel like that's a guaranteed burn.
I don't know. You're flipping a lot of tails, but I'm just looking at how much Amoonguss there is and how it matches up into that. The whole thing with these Pokemon as well is you have a Follow Me user that can't get put to sleep and also will always work. It's not like this whole
too.
Yeah, it's not like Amoonguss where it's okay, I can Rage Powder unless they have safety goggles or unless they're a grass type or unless they have Grass Terra, in which case I'm SOL. The Follow Me with these Pokemon, well, it encompasses everything. And then Vital Spirit, so it also goes up against another Moongus's, which Amoonguss doesn't really have that versus the other, which is nice. If somebody all of a sudden for Louisville pops off with a Flame Body or a Static Team, I'll eat my Garchomp bush.
No, poor Garchomp. There's only one of them.
But I think Vital Spirit just clears, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. It is better contextually for this format. It's just in theory, Pokemon can have two viable abilities, but one is better because of the
I don't think the other one's viable.
They're definitely viable. I think Static Zapdos was one of the strongest legendaries back in the day.
I'm not saying okay. First off, what else does Zapdos have? I don't think it has anything
pressure.
else.
I think
pressure. Okay, even worse. I mean, for this Pokemon in particular.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying in a vacuum, those are viable abilities in this context because Amoonguss is everywhere. It's Vital Spirit is better, but Static and Flame Body are absolutely. I mean, doesn't the freaking wow, why did I say Volcarona? Combine
Volcarona,
Vikavolt and Volcarona. Volcarona has Flame Body.
I think where we're going in circles on this conversation is I'm specifically talking about only in the case of Magmar and Electabuzz. Because if either of those is running a different ability other than Vital Spirit, I think you're cray, honestly.
I just think it's neat that Gen 9 that Gen 9 has given a big glow up to some Gen 1er mons like Dragonite, because now everyone thinks Dragonite's busted. It was not a good Pokemon for 8 generations, and then it became a star. Articuno won a regional. I would like to have a
word with you right about now.
But I've had many words. You watch on the broadcast 5 times every weekend. We have those words over Dragonite. Magmar and Electabuzz. Some of the Kanto Pokemon, freaking Tauros, even though it's a kind of cousin of Tauros. It's not really it's not the Kanto Tauros. There's been some Gen 1 love here,
Yeah. Looking through the other Pokemon, I mean, it's good in the sense that there's,
Yeah.
I don't really know what to respond to that, honestly. Dragonite's been around for a bit. We've had Electabuzz for a little bit.
I'm saying Gen 9. I'm saying what was nice about what has been nice about this generation, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet for the Nintendo Switch, is that some of these Gen 1 Pokemon that really were not metagame relevant for the major portion of VGC's history are now solid staples and powerhouses in the meta.
Maybe I'm just too green at VGC, so I don't know this old era, but I just look back at old VGC things and it's here's Mega Kangaskhan going up against another Mega Kangaskhan. Oh wow, isn't that so cool? Oh, here's this Gengar. Ooh, wow. It's just a bunch of Gen 1 Pokemon that it's just I don't know. Maybe because I haven't lived it, so I've only seen some of the top teams, so that could just be very I've only seen a little bit, but I've seen these Gen 1's Pokemon be viable. They've been good.
I know, but I like more Gen 1 being good. You ever watch HGTV? You ever see a decrepit old house and then the glow up at the end of the episode? But the concept of it, they take over, they fix the couch, they paint everything, and the glow up at the end. You see the before and after. It's just fun to see. So the positive end story. That's what Electabuzz and Magmar are to me. They're an HGTV.
See, what
episode.
I imagine this is that you're not taking a rundown house. It's just a nice house in a nice neighborhood, and you're like, it just needs some tweaks. And then you tweak it a little bit, and then at the end, you still have a nice house in a nice neighborhood surrounded by all the other nice houses in the nice neighborhood because there was already so many viable things.
Nah. Articuno was living in Compton. I think Articuno had a major glow up in that house. You want to say Dragonite had a condo and he made it a little nicer or something? Articuno was in a rough spot, and Gen 9 made it viable.
Rip Articuno. But all right, other teams, because we don't have. We're talking about Articuno.
All day, Sarah.
We have no Articuno here. We have no Articuno, but looking at a couple of the other teams, a couple of the interesting things. I mean, a Toxtricity Drifblim at 6th place is not anything I would have expected. Como on the team as well. Indeedee male, not female. Like, it has been 99.9999999% Indeedee female since whatever happened with this generation where they had the Terra raids that accidentally gave it Trick Room, and then they're like, this is a thing now. And yeah, because before, if you wanted Trick Room, it was only the Indeedee male. But now the Indeedee female is just infinitely better. But yeah, we have Indeedee male on this team instead, which is crazy. I don't think I've actually seen any of them in Sword and Shield so far.
It's like super rare, right? Because why would you, if the one thing that held Indeedee female back in Gen 8 was she didn't have Trick Room, why would you ever run Indeedee male now that she accidentally has Trick Room? So, but Indeedee male is just he's a little bit faster, a little stronger of a special attacker, as well as if you look at Jack's team, like, you can definitely see some Psy spam weaknesses. Hard to say that 5 times fast. The Komo as well as Toxtricity, your two sweepers are with Volcarona kind of, but Volcarona doesn't even have what's it called? The what's the move? Raise its special attack, special defense, and speed.
Quiver Dance.
It doesn't. Thank you. It doesn't even have Quiver Dance, so it's not as much of a sweeper as Toxtricity and Como are in this matchup. They're both very weak to size spam. So by having Indeedee male, you still have Psychic Terrain, but with Imprison, the opposing Armarouge and Indeedee can't click Expanding Force, and they also can't click Trick Room. So I think Jack's team is like really well constructed, as well as having Drifblim and Hydreigon on the team as two potential Golden Go answers, or not Golden Go. Hydreigon at least is the Golden Go, but Drifblim with Psychic Terrain and the Unburden is just like a super fast Tailwind and Will-O-Wisp setter and stuff. So I like this team, how it's constructed. No fire type, no grass type either, and one Terra Grass with Drifblim, but usually you don't really see that too often. No fire type or grass type. Oh yeah, Volcarona, I'm an idiot. No water type is what I meant to say. No water or grass.
Oh, because you're saying I got mixed up with which one you're talking about.
I said fire, water, grass, and then I forgot about Volcarona, but yeah.
I thought when you were saying Volcarona that you're implying it was grass, and I was just sitting there looking at it like,
no.
What? Okay, it took me a second. Yeah, I don't know if you said Indeedee female doesn't get Imprison. It does, but like the speed and like the getting more like attack makes sense.
No. Yeah, I didn't say anything in Imprison. I just said male is faster. That's all I said, yeah.
It's late over here, Joe Brown. It's late. So my bad. My ears aren't working too well.
It's all good. All good.
It's an interesting team. The fact that there's just Imprison Expanding Force, I think is absolutely hilarious. You know that in Swiss, like, everyone has their story of I was doing so well until I matched up against this one size spam player. They go up against Jack Clark, and Jack Clark says, "Oh, this size spam player is about to go to their group and just be like, I just went up against Prison Expanding Force, and you just ruined their day."
It's like a one-man team counter. You know what I mean? Like, just in one slot, you counter an entire archetype because both Armors and Indeedee, like, I guess you're going to have to click, I don't know, helping hand and another attack like Armor Cannon, maybe helping hand Armor Cannon, but I would imagine the Indeedee male is probably trained in the special defense, right? So you don't get one shot by that. So like really, if you're a Side-Span player and they have Indeedee Male on the other side, you just got to use your other 4 Pokemon. You got to set Trick Room with Gallade. You got to use Ursaluna and Torkoal to sweep through that game because Armorers and Indeedee are not it.
It reminds me of like this one regionals I went to like way back playing TCG. Somebody was playing this absolutely dog water deck. And like they're just like we're all just there to have fun. So like it doesn't matter. Mine was also bad, right? And basically it was just doing damage over time. And it's like I will slowly put like 2 damage counters on absolutely everything, and eventually I'll take a bunch of KOs. And round 3, they go up against this one person that had a kind of standard deck, but took out 3 cards for consistency to put in the most random stadium and item and whatever, so that every turn they could heal a couple damage counters off of like all their Pokemon certain type. I wish I could remember more details. This is way back, and it was not a good like
not a
choice.
Good strat at all.
It was not, absolutely not. But he goes up against the one guy who is playing this also terrible deck that just slowly does that. It was so funny, so funny. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, other interesting Pokemon. I mean, I don't think it's like interesting at this point. There's a lot of Flamigo. That's kind of been the thing. 21st also has male Indeedee with the Delphox.
And Delphox also strong. I think it even has. I don't know if its special attack is higher than Armarouge's or if it's like the same spot, but like that's why Delphox with Expanding Forces is really good.
Couple different Kilowattrel teams. 34 and 35 is back-to-back Kilowattrels. Still having the same concept of the Garchomp, Galarian Weezing, Corviknight, Kilowattrel, which is not a 4-mon combination I ever thought I would be talking about. And then one has it rounded out with Gallade and Incineroar, and then the other with Toadstool and Hizui and Typhlosion. And I don't know which one is crazier. I love that it works. Then like it was the Toadstool Hizui and Typhlosion one that was on stream. That was just dude, I don't know. Awesome. These are crazy. I think they're awesome.
I would say like my last team before we move on to the usage is Fevzi's team. Like I've been a big Fevzi fan for years at this point, going back to all the Players Cup runs. So I'm always going to refer him whenever I see him at a stream at EU. But this construction, this 6 of Sinisha, Grimmsnarl, Pelipper, Archaladon, and then Mousehold, Annihilate. Like I think this is the perfect team for Sinisha. Like ever since it came out in the DLC, I've been a fan of it. I think it's a really cool typing. You got the grass types, you can't be spored, but you also have Rage Powder. You can set up Trick Room. Amoonguss can't do Trick Room. Like there's been cool aspects of Sinisha. Like if I use it as my Trick Room user, no, Porygon is better, or this Pokemon's better. Like I really like how Fevzi, and then I believe there's another German player, 24th, Faiz Ashfaq, also use the same 6. Maybe they're friends because they're both, from Germany in the same 6. But this seems like the perfect construction for it, because as I was watching the Fevzi's matches on stream, like you have light screen for the Grimmsnarl, right, to help your basically your win conditions are Annihilate or Archaladon sweeps. That's how you win these matches. So you have light screen to help them both on their special defense side, and then Annihilate has Drain Punch, as well as Archaladon has Stamina, and Mousehold has Beat Up into both of them. So like they're gonna take a little bit of damage. It's gonna take a couple turns to get to the win condition, and then you can have Sinisha come in and Hospitality heal them up. Like we saw Fevzi get 2 Hospitality heals in one game once onto his Archaladon, and the other team was just struggling because it's Assault Vest behind a light screen and you're boosting its defense, right? So I hope this team can like develop more, or maybe somebody has a good run with it in Louisville or LAIC or something, because like this 6 interests me as like a really strong Sinistra team.
Sinistra's just one of those Pokemon for me. Like I never get the burns. I miss the Machikotkas. It's just, but it's good when other people use it. But that'll be a good one. The last Pokemon I'll talk about real fast, and I say talk about, but it's more so honorable mention. Let me go back and find it. There is a Dudunsparce at 71st place.
Ooh, shout outs.
Yeah. Rattled, Terra Psychic,
Hector.
Boom Burst, Stored Power, Calm Mind, and Protect with Weakness Policy.
I like that. Now, is there any self-activating? There is a Drain Punch from the Annihilate. I'm not sure if you want to eat a Drain Punch from an Annihilate, but that is cool. I don't know if you want to eat a Body Press from Archaludon either, but the Dunsparce said that's interesting.
Gotta do Dunsparce. All right, we can talk about the usage over the event. Dun, 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 going to the bottom. So the very first thing when I look at this usage is, wow, Rillaboom goes up quite a bit of percent, 8% difference from day 1 to day 2. That's my first initial thought. The second, Sneasler up 10%. And then third, Dragapult non-existent on day 1 usage, up to 21% of the day 2 teams. And for context, the lowest Pokemon on the top 12 for day 1 is 14.7% for Porygon. So Dragapult was below 14.7%.
Yeah.
And went up to 21 to then make the graphic.
Yeah, I think Dragapult had a really good showing. We should stop being surprised when Dragapult randomly comes back in formats and starts destroying stuff with Choice Band Phantom Force, because it kind of does it every couple weeks. We keep forgetting about it, and then it just comes back. And we saw kind of 2 different ways, one with Phantom Force, one with Dragon Darts, but the Choice Band still just being really strong, because even though it's a somewhat frail Pokemon and a fast Pokemon, it still is it's dodge tanky, for lack of a better word, because it's not tanky because it's not bulky. Its stats are not defensive, but it dodge tanks because it Phantom Forces and leaves the field, and then somebody targets a Shadow Ball into a Pokemon that's no longer there. So, that's like in Fire Emblem games, they use that. You can have a tank or a dodge tank who has really high evasion, and his job is to take a lot of hits that don't connect, and that's how you can get through it. And that's kind of how I view Dragapult as a really fast Pokemon that is just, it's not taking damage well, but it evades damage very well.
See, my thing with because you're talking about we gotta stop being surprised about Dragapult. Dragapult is the Pokemon that I have seen get the least amount of credit for absolutely anything it does in this format. It'll do good at Worlds, it'll do good at Regionals. Just hang won an event with it. And nobody cared.
Alex Gomez won NAIC with it,
Yeah. Nobody cared about the Dragapult. Everyone forgot about the Dragapult. And then everyone's like, oh my god, Dragapult.
Oh wow, Choice Band Phantom Force is actually strong. Who would have thought?
Dragapult's popping off lately. This came out of the blue. And then everyone stops talking about it. And then all of a sudden, you wait an event or two and it pops off. Everyone's like, oh my god, is Dragapult good? Do you guys think it's good now? I think
Dragapult, to your credit on the day 1 to day 2 of the general population versus the good players, quote unquote good, you made day 2, right? So the better players is I do think Dragapult is a very hard Pokemon to pilot for the general player because of the restrictions. One, you're choice locked. Do you choice lock to Phantom Force? Do you do Dragon Claw or Dragon Darts, or do you go for your Ghost Attack, or do you swap out? I think Dragapult is a restricting Pokemon to the general player base or lesser experienced player base, and that's why in day 2 you see it go from 0 to hero on the graphic, because the better players are more well positioned to properly pilot such a strong Pokemon.
You know what? My biggest thing to counter that is the common trend that you see with these Dragapult Choice Band teams is a lot of them have Sneasler. One of the plays we got to see on broadcast, okay, I'm just going to Choice Band, lock myself into Outrage. And if they Terra Fairy to get around it, I'm going to Dire Claw one-shot them with my Sneasler. It was damned if you do, damned if you don't. You either get bodied by the Outrage or you get bodied by the Sneasler. It's a combination that's really just those 2 Pokemon are good together, and you can get some really ugly pins because you just have 2 strong Pokemon.
And they're both really fast.
Yeah, it's one of those memes where someone's trying to furiously figure something out and like, oh, but you have to do this, so you'd have to do this. It's like that little chart where it's like, bring 2 strong Pokemon, and it's the dumb person. Then you have like you need everything perfectly calced, and you need to have this in position at all times.
Yeah.
And it's just like average. And then you have the genius, and it's like, just bring 2 strong Pokemon.
Yeah,
And
like the curve, it goes from low to mid to low. Yeah.
like Dragapult Sneasler is literally that. You just bring 2 strong Pokemon, and simply put, what do? You don't have to position Dragapult well. You just click Outrage and laugh.
That's a good point that like I'm trying to think if we've ever really had a format that I can remember where if you just have 2 naturally really fast offensive threats that are just good at pressing the buttons. Like obviously there's great Pokemon in every format, but like one, Incineroar doesn't really want to intimidate the intimidate on the switch in. One, because Dragapult has clear body, so you're not doing anything there. But 2, Sneasler is just going to wreck you with close combat, even if it's intimidated. And the Dragapult's able to leave the field with the Phantom Force, so you can't even go for knockoff or something like that. Like we really haven't had I'm just trying to think on my head, like 2 just incredibly fast. Here I'm going to attack first. And you have to deal with both of these hits without the help of Tailwind or Trick Room or Dragon Dance or a setup move. Like usually you have to do something to get to that speed and that power. But no, Dragapult and Sneasler, they're just pressing buttons out there.
Yeah, that is when we go back to maybe I don't actually like this format. It was when I literally saw the play, I was just like, oh wow, I enjoyed watching that, but like, if I'm not playing this team and doing this to other people, I don't think I want to like play this. So that one was a yeah.
I do also think that Trick Room fell off at least in day 2. Just looking at it, I feel there's only 1 Trick Room team in top 8. But then on day 2, both Porygon fell off the graphic from 12th to not in the top 12. And then Ursaluna, who was a top 12 mon in Baltimore, was not on the graphic on either day in Dortmund. So I do think, I don't know if that's an overcorrection, people trying out different strategies or whatever, but it did seem like Trick Room took a step back in EU.
Thank goodness. Good riddance.
Just trying to analyze it, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it's a trend.
Also, for another team, not always because they were built in very different ways, but Miraidon plus a strong Pokemon. If you're thinking of like, what is a 2 strong Pokemon lead that is just like lead wrong, they can just hit you because you have Miraidon
that's also
with like
super fast. Like you don't need Tailwind, you don't need
Miraidon.
No, I know. But what was the teammate that was just next to Miraidon that they just click buttons every turn?
You can have Ogerpon, you can have Urshifu.
I don't know if
that one wasn't as like consistent.
That's not Sneasler Dragapult tier of speed.
It's definitely not Sneasler Dragapult. I'm just thinking, that is the most recent one that I can think of off the top of my head. Yeah. That's kind of like
I got you.
Similar in that sort of vein.
The other thing, Cheppa tweeted about the big 3 he used. I think everyone's like, going off of Lorcy's original tweet about the big 3 steel types, and people were clowning him, and he was absolutely correct. So then now Cheppa made the big 3 meme with Archaladon, King Gambit, and what's his face, Golden Go being on 85+% of the teams, and like it's kind of a problem.
Why were people clowning Lorcy for that? That just seems objectively correct.
This was pre-Baltimore. Lorcy made a tweet. He was like, I think, and that's what Cheppa was, memeing on in his tweet the other day, was like, if you're not using one of King Gambit, Archaladon, or Golden Go, you're throwing. And people are like, no, how much you want to bet those 3 aren't even going to top 8 Baltimore and blah, blah. Like, maybe it's the same like anti-Incineroar people back in the beginning of Reg F, right? Like, oh, Incineroar falling off, and Wolf is like, hold on a second, and then goes and wins.
I got this.
Yeah.
I just like...
It was a big thing. People were like disagreeing with Lorcy, and he was absolutely correct. My boy was right.
Well, I'm glad Lorcy gets the last laugh on that. Also, just Lorcy's a smart and good player. Like, I don't, it's like, it's not like he's tweeting out something like egregious, and it's like, here is these 3 bad Pokemon. And like, also, even if Lorcy wasn't a good player, anyone who is half decent at the game should know that these are 3 more than decent Steel types. Like, what?
And if you were testing particular, not just in general, their general value as Pokemon, right? But if you were testing this format in particular, if you were actually playing it online, you should have been running into a million Golden Go, King and Gambit, and Archaludon teams to agree with Lorcy's opinion. So if you weren't testing it, you shouldn't have disagreed because you didn't have a valid opinion because you hadn't tested it. And if you were testing it, you should have also agreed because you should have been facing all the steel types. But I did love Evan replied to Cheppa's big three steel types tweet with a gif of Orthworm just like dancing, and then Cheppa was like, okay, big 4 steel types.
Oh my gosh. I mean, Ugarte got points with Orthworm at
a
Grand Challenge, so I won 3 out of my 4 games.
There you go.
So I'm just saying.
Big 4 steel types.
Yeah, it's gonna pop off at Louisville.
Oh, could you imagine?
Actually, it'd be pretty hype. I doubt, but there's not enough Garchomp in the format for that, unfortunately. What else for this? I mean, realistically, where things kind of shuffle a little bit, and Dragapult being like, because I do the same thing where I kind of forget that Dragapult is a legitimate Pokemon, and then I just kind of shocked Pikachu face when it shows up. But other than that, this is kind of not the most surprising. Like the Pokemon that kind of fall off for day 2, I kind of expect. I think the one that I didn't expect so much was the King Gambit versus the Golden Go. I think, like, seeing them maybe swap on day 2, I wouldn't be the most surprised about, but by how much, I think is the thing that kind of caught me off guard. Like, King Gambit is super, super strong, don't get me wrong, but I thought Golden Go would kind of be side by side with it. I didn't think it would be surpassed by so many things.
Yeah, you would think in a vacuum that King Gambit has much more threatening it than Golden Go. It has a 4 times weakness to one of the most common types in the game in fighting. It's very threatened by burn if you're not going to use Terra Fire on it, right? It's also a slow Pokemon where Golden Go is kind of middling, can be fast if you train it well. So I agree with you that you would think Golden Go would be higher than King Gambit, but like there were a couple of those Black Glasses sucker punches that were like resisted onto Pokemon this weekend that I'm like, man, that's not even resisted. There was like a sucker punch into a Sneasler that did like 60%. And I'm like, oof.
Is the resisted hit in the room with us right now? Like, what's going on?
So I like King Gambit. I'm a big fan, but obviously, I don't know, the Dortmund players they preferred it over Golden Go and Archaludon.
I said, like, I'm not surprised of it doing like well. I just thought Golden Go like would maybe be at like 30%. But I guess if you're talking 38, like 20, 24, and like you're combining, because you're not really running them on the same team, right?
Right. Yeah.
I guess that checks out.
I think we do
Porygon disappeared for day 2.
As we move on here, Sierra, because we're getting late, I think we have to address the elephant in the room. And by elephant, I mean whatever animal Sneasler is based off of, because we got to have a conversation here about Sneasler. It's been all over the internet. There's been many Twitter threads, many back and forths. It's fair, it's not fair, it's busted, it's not busted. I think it's time for the Sneasler conversation.
Yeah, I think my least favorite part of Dortmund was Sneasler. It just feels like an unfair Pokemon, and not unfair in the way that people are like, Urshifu is unfair because it hits through Protect. It's like, okay, that's like the design.
It's a whole different world. Yeah.
Unfair because of Dire Claw and just like the random status that's just like, I don't know, it already does a lot of damage, and then it could just instantly status and just completely flip a game, and it's, I don't know, it starts getting too far into the luck category, at least like when you have a fissure or something, like it's just a straight up like 1 in 3 chance to not hit. It's not like, oh, you're always going to do a lot of damage, and then also there's a 1 in 3 chance to just win the game right here.
Yeah, so you're always going to do something good, and then you'll sometimes have something that helps you out even more on top of it. It's like a win more situation. But you say Fissure's 30% accurate. Wise Scholars once said, maybe it's 50%. Either maybe Fissure either hits or it doesn't. That's what Scott Glass told me. But I think Sneasler, Sierra, this might be the hottest take I've had in our 54 episodes of a podcast. I would argue that Sneasler is the most toxic, at least Dire Claw and Poison Touch or whatever. Sneasler is the most toxic mechanic we have had in Pokemon since Dark Void Smeargle. All of these years later, I don't think any problems we've had from Gen 6 to now of what peak Dark Void Smeargle was equate to what Sneasler is right now, because there's both pros and cons, right? Like, the issue with Smeargle back in the day, for those who didn't play, it had an 80% accurate sleep move that hit both Pokemon. So sometimes it would hit both, sometimes it would hit none, sometimes it would hit one, sometimes it would hit the target that you didn't want to hit instead, so you got bad RNG there. And on top of it, the Smeargle is using the Moody ability, which sometimes you got a speed. Oh, I made it through Sneasler. He's so annoying. Oh, well, Sneasler just got a speed boost, and now it's +2 speed, and it's going to go for Dark Void. Oh my God, I've won the game. I've set the win conditions up. Oh, Moody. Now my Smeargle just lost speed, so now I don't outspeed, and I don't win the game anymore. So Sneasler, to me, like Smeargle, is like, oh well, I was gonna lose, but I just got the Paraflinch. I was gonna lose, but I just poisoned the Focus Sash Pokemon. And on the other end, it's like, oh my God, I need to hit this Dire Claw so I can put it to sleep. Please put it to sleep. Oh, you rolled poison instead of sleep. So it's both detrimental and to positive beneficially too. So if that's my hot take, if people don't agree with my hot take, I apologize, but that's how I feel.
I feel like, and this is not, like, to preface this is not to say that people that using Sneasler are bad or have no skill. I'm saying that I think some of the positions that Sneasler will put a player in are no skill by the move design, right? It's like when you're playing through a game and, like, you set up a perfect scenario and then you get crit. And it's not that you just got outplayed, it's the game was like, nah, I guess you just lose now. And that's what I feel Sneasler does, to a point. Yeah. To such an exaggerated point where I no longer think it's fair. Like, I think if you got outplayed and you're in a losing position, then you should lose the game more of the time. Like, I already am not a big fan of critical hits. I think they're a necessity for the game for, stat boost not to get out of control, and it adds, like, an element. But I think once we start going too much further with that it starts getting a little unfair, and that's kind of Sneasler. Like, I was hearing stories even from, like, Baltimore of people, like, playing against someone who had very clearly lost, and the person's like, I'm just going for Dire Claw and, like, to hope I can just, like, luck you at this point. And that's the game. Yeah. That's the game. And I, like, personally, like, I don't think that's a healthy state of the game. I'm not going to blame people for going for it. Play to your outs, right? If your luck is using this busted Pokemon with an unfair move, yeah, go for it. I'm not saying anything bad about them. I just think the inherent design of that Pokemon, like, move is I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think it's way worse than the crit. Like, you equate it to critical hits and you won when you should have lost or whatever. But at least a crit, like, that's what the player has to go for, right? They need close combat to crit to break the +6 stamina Archaladon. It is their only win condition. But Sneasler doesn't, like, if somebody gets that crit, they played to their out, right? Like Aaron Traylor's 2% win against Joe in Salt Lake, right? Like, he played to the exact out he needed of the play rough miss and Origin Pulse miss and, whatever. So that's nowhere near as bad as, like, Sneasler, like, I'm just going to go to the casino and take whatever money they give me. Like, I'll take a para. I'll take 2 turns of a sleep. Why not? I'll take a poison.
And the move is already good. Yeah. Without the 50, like, without the chance of the poison paralysis or sleep, the move's already good. It's an 80 base power move with 100% accuracy on a Pokemon that's already strong with the same type attack bonus. Right. The move is already strong.
Surging Strikes is only 75 base power. If you use the 325s, and we all complain about Surging Strikes. Dire Claw's even stronger.
Yeah, and so, like, that's kind of the issue. At least, like, the other moves that are just like, okay, you go for it, like, you directly get punished, whereas a lot of times with Sneasler, it's like, well, yeah, like, you just get a bunch of damage, and also there's just an opportunity for you to win the game. You just get a 50% roll, or, like, maybe a little less, depending on the situation, but there are certain scenarios where if you Dire Claw, and if it sleeps the opponent, you've won the game on the spot. And I don't think that's fair.
Or as we saw on stream, the Annihilate was going to attack next and get the knockout, and then got paralyzed and lowered in the speed tier because of dynamic speed, and gets knocked out before it gets the chance to
There
win the
was
game.
one stream match on day 1 where the Sneasler going up against them got 3 different statuses on them. And I'm just like, and this we think Urshifu's too much, but like Sneasler's good.
I do think the only saving grace right now when it comes to Sneasler is that I don't think
ugly?
yeah, it is a weird. It's also, I don't know. It is weird that it's poison fighting. Like I don't think it's giving fighting to me. I definitely see the poison, but that's for another day. But I don't think Sneasler has the potential to be format ruining the way that Smeargle absolutely ruined formats and absolutely impacted players' interest and willingness to play VGC, and then lowered to the point where we're having 35 player regionals. I don't think, because of the state of the game, fortunately, how far we've grown from those days, that I don't think people are going to not play in Toronto because Sneasler's strong in the format, the way that people like back in the day genuinely stopped playing Pokemon because of Smeargle.
I think we're just too far along. There's so many people that try to like sign up for events that if you had Smeargle current day, okay, you get some people that leave, and it's like others are like rejoicing in the streets because they'll be able to sign up because the spots instantly sell out.
We're just gonna need more counters, like the acrobatics drift flim, right? Like that's a counter to it as a fighting type. Maybe some other poison types show up. Maybe some like steel types that aren't weak to fighting, right? Like King Gambit does not do well. Oh, you're immune to Dire Claw. Well, close combat, you're dead. So maybe some other steel types will show up. We need more counters.
I think overall, the fact that it is a poison move, so it can't get into steel types, and obviously we're in a format where steel types are really good.
Yeah,
I think has definitely made it so maybe people don't quite notice how problematic of a move Dire Claw is, because then it's like, oh well, these things can counter it, right? We're also, because of terastallization, you could always Terra into a steel type. I just think it's nice that there is ways to counter it, and obviously Sneasler is well represented, top cut, don't get me wrong, but it didn't win. It got 2nd, 3rd, 4th, no Sneasler, 5th, no Sneasler, 6th, no Sneasler, 7, 8 Sneasler, right? So it's not Urshifu on every single team level. I just think seeing how the matches played out that had a Sneasler, even when Sneasler wasn't doing good, it was just there's just an opportunity that even if you have the matchup, even if you're out playing, that the Sneasler just goes nah, I don't play by your rules.
Yeah.
And I just don't like that.
I mean, it is crazy that Golden Go truly walls Sneasler, right? If it's Dire Claw, close combat, coaching, protect. Literally cannot touch Golden Go. Yet Sneasler went up to 30, almost 38% on day 2, and Golden Go fell, 8 percentage points or something. You would think it's Golden Go mandatory. Just if Sneasler continues to rise, if Sneasler takes the Rillaboom slot, you just have to play Golden Go.
I don't know, because then there's other things to counter the Golden Go, right? So it's because a lot of these Sneaslers, and by a lot I mean almost every single one, they also have the King Gambit. And, the Golden Go is not going to appreciate the King Gambit at all, and the Golden Go is not doing too much to the King Gambit. And then all of a sudden you want to Terra.
Right,
you want to Terra all of a sudden to a steel. Alright, Sneasler's got you again, It's going to be that close combat, so I don't know. I stopped playing the format as much the game after a Sneasler 4-0'd me. And on stream, and I was just nope. So maybe I'm very personally vested in this, because that was before Sneasler popped off in the format too. That was I was one of the first victims of Sneasler out there, and it 4-0'd me, and I said absolutely not.
I do like that. Like once Sneasler became legal with the other Hisuian Pokemon at in Reg D last year for Worlds, and everyone was trying like the grassy terrain, grassy seed unburdened, acrobatics, like just like trying to make it as fast as possible. And like back then, Sneasler was a hero, right? It was a voice of the voiceless, all the bad Pokemon that weren't good in the legendary field, and you're trying to use this gimmick mon to to crack back at Urshifu and whatever. And now it's like, no, 38% usage. Give me one of your 3 beneficial status conditions, please. Like,
I'll take 1 status condition, please and thank you. But yeah, I would love to know what other people think about Sneasler. I think if you hate things like Urshifu, like you're required to hate Sneasler. I think Sneasler Dire Claw is worse than Urshifu. I think you're valid if you hate Urshifu. I just think Sneasler also has to be on your list. But like that's just
at least Urshifu looks cool. Sneasler doesn't look.
Sneasler kind of ugly,
but Urshifu kind of cool.
Urshifu's like trying too hard, but it's like
fine. My boy's cool. Don't
Sneasler's
disrespect him.
Ugly. But yeah, where didn't have much Sneasler? Joinville.
Ooh, so what
2
a segue.
Double regional weekend. So only one was broadcasted. The other, Joinville in Brazil, was not. This one was won by Gabriel Agati. And then it was Sebastian Escalante in second place with a 6 Pokemon mirror, neither having a Sneasler on it. So kudos. Also, that is a stacked finals, by the way.
Yeah, honestly. And Juan Salerno got third too, right?
Yeah.
So that's
crazy.
A lot of the top LATAM talent went out to Joinville. So Gabriel Gotti, I mean, for years now, what a half a decade at this point, more than half a decade, has been one of the best LATAM players, multiple second place IC finishes, multiple regional wins, one of the best out there. And I think what's interesting with this team that we have this mirror match in the finals, Sierra, is there's conversation going on in the social media, sphere. Particularly, Adi had Victor Medina come onto his show, and Victor's quote is that Ninetales Garchomp is the best team in the format. So, you've seen the Eviolite stuff, you've seen the Sneasler King Gambit stuff that's been going on in NA and EU or whatever. But remember, Paul Chua had this Ninetales team, Dragonite team as well. Like, what are your thoughts on Ninetales Double Dragon? Is it the best team in the format?
I'm intrigued about it. I see Dortmund. I look at the top teams and I'm like, oh, I don't vibe with this. Looking at the top teams coming out, this is like a regulation I can get behind. But I'm looking at just like a Garchomp, a Alolan Ninetales, and a Dragonite. Like, I don't know. This just seems like fun VGC. I think kind of like parts of it, like, make a lot of sense. If you're having all these Dragon-type Pokemon going around, okay, what goes good into that? Fairy types. And they can just hit, I mean, not fairy, ice types. You know what I mean?
Well, also has Moonblast, yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I'm talking about the Blizzard, though. Yeah. Like, everything you're able to hit with that, the fact that it can hit, like, the Mugus as well, not get redirected, hit these flying types. Like, I think there's a lot to be said there. And so, when we've seen Alolan Ninetales in the past, we've seen these Aurora Veil sets, but, like, the more offensive one, I think is great. You also have a direct weather counter on your team, so you're not just letting developer players do whatever they want. Like, I don't know, this looks fun. This looks like good VGC. I like this.
I really like the team synergy. So one, Alolan Ninetales, which one of our viewers went back and saw that Paul Chua didn't even have Aurora Veil on his Ninetales, just straight up offense. And that's what these two trainers have also. Gabrielle has Choice Specs, Terra Ice, Ninetales, just like one of Specs Ice Blizzard as strong as possible, compared to Focus Sash on Sebastian's team. So a little less damage, but a little more security by being able to click protect and encore and stuff like that. No Moonblast as well on Sebastian's end, so just going for the 2 ice attacks. And I think the team has really solid synergy, and it allows the other Pokemon, like to facilitate better. For example, Dragonite, this time around, we mentioned that the top Dragonite in Dortmund did not have extreme speed because it had Dragonance instead. This Dragonite version, they're both Terra Flying with Terra Blast, but you can fit extreme speed on it because you have the Lumberry and you have multi-scale, and you can go for extreme speed because you don't need Stomping Tantrum, which is what the other set had, because Garchomp is on the team, and you can click extreme speed Terra Blast with a flying type Dragonite next to the Garchomp. It's the only EQ immunity on the team as well, so there's inherent synergy there. Garchomp loves having a flying type teammate, whether it's Talonflame or Dragonite or whoever back in the day. So I do think this team is well constructed, and they kind of give each other the synergy. It is kind of jarring to me as a guy that's used Aurora Veil on Ninetales and preached the good word of Alolan Ninetales for like 7 years now, or whenever Sun and Moon came out, to not see Aurora Veil on the team. But like, hey, sometimes you just gotta do Specs Blizzards.
So close yet so far, frankly. Like, you knew, but you were just a little off, so no one took you seriously, and now look at it. I mean, good team, and like for them to be running it, LAIC is sooner rather than later,
Right.
a month away. So I'm curious if this is going to be a team they're kind of sticking with, or if this is kind of like more of like one of those early format teams that you can kind of get away with. But offhand, like, I really like it. I think the one thing that I see, there is naturally like speedy Pokemon on the team. And we're not really in too much of a Tailwind format, but if we start heading into that way, you do have a speed issue. You do have Sucker Punch King Gambit, which is a nice way, and like Extreme Speed Dragonite. But at the same time, there is a decent amount of Psychic Brain around, and I mean, some of the Pokemon that can just hit these two types, like Sneasler exists, right? So I'd be kind of intrigued of it going a little on further if the meta sort of shifts.
So, all right, well, we gotta give hot takes. We gotta make a claim. We are, responding to the quote that Ninetales Garchomp is the best team in the format. Do we agree with that take, or would you say like a Archaludon balanced team or Annihilate, balanced team? Like, what in your head, could there be something that is better than this Ninetales Double Dragon core right now? Or is it the best? Is it the team to beat going into Louisville?
I think if you're strictly looking at results, I think you have to say that it is the team. I think if you're looking at Chua's placement in Baltimore and you're looking at Joinville with two very accomplished players having it in the finals, I think you look at it and it's kind of like, yeah. But at the same time, Agati, Escalante, and Chua, all extremely skilled players, and this team overall isn't having really high usage. It's a select few top tier players. So my only question with that, I don't think I can put it as then the team to beat, because if you're not going up against one of the few select top players playing it, well, then it's not an issue, right? You have to make sure you have a matchup into it, but if you're going up against everything else more, it won't matter. I think when it really comes into this is the team to beat is when more people start picking up on it. So I definitely think it's a strong team, and it could be. But if it doesn't get widely adopted, or Louisville, because it's more of a higher skill team, I think you just get wrecked by it by a top skill player, which would also just wreck you with whatever 6 Pokemon they wanted to have in their box. Like, I don't know, Paul Chua could be using garbage team and still kick my butt, right? Like, it doesn't matter.
That's true.
It doesn't matter at that point. So
yeah,
I think yeah.
That to me is what holds it back. Like, my argument is like I don't believe it's the best team in the format. Like, does it have the potential? For sure. And like at any point, like the best team's the team that wins is like the simple forehead answer. But because of the, how do I say this? The nature of Pokemon players and their tendency to copycat popular and successful strategies, the fact that this is not rampant the way that Sneasler, King Gambit teams, and Mousehold, Annihilate, Archaludon teams are in the format is what's holding it back to me from declaring it the best thing, because people Be about chalk. If it's chalk, 50% of people are playing chalk. If it's Big Six, everyone's playing Big Six. Like, not everybody is playing this team, and maybe it's the high skill ceiling, as you're saying, or maybe it might not be the best team out there.
I think what it is realistically, it's like you'll see when Wolf uses a team and is successful with it, it gets adopted on because he is like a top figure in the community, right? So it's a team that is very public. When you're winning an event, it's a team that's very public. And Chua getting second with the team at Baltimore, great. You think it would be more public than it is, but it's extremely overshadowed by this guy who had his very first regional, the very humble win with this population bomb. And all of a sudden, all the conversations about Baltimore is about this team and it's about Mousehold. Nobody's talking about Alolan Ninetales. Everyone's talking about Mousehold, despite the fact that this other team was also in the finals, right? And then when you're looking at Joinville, well, it's not broadcasted. So you have these two, like, crack players, but a lot of people don't follow, like, sorry, that's a baseless claim, but I'm assuming a lot of people don't follow Victory Road and that sort of stuff as much as they would follow the live streams and what Pokemon's posting about, which if it's only their EU and NA events, well, then people aren't really going to see this team to the same extent. They're not going to be able to get their hands on it. They don't have footage of their favorite players playing this team. So I think that's kind of the biggest issue. If this was a broadcasted regional, I think a lot more people would have picked up on this team.
Yeah.
If Chua had beat Nicholas at Baltimore, I think the usage of the team would have gone up.
There's a lot of footage of Archaladon out there at this point. You know? So people are playing it, yeah.
And like you see the Archaladon, you look at it and you're like, oh wow, that's doing good stuff. And then it's like you just gravitate to, oh, it's good. Because your memory of seeing Paul on stream was, yeah, a good player, but like, okay, his team just got wrecked by a population bomb. That's your lasting impression of it, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a case to be made because of the team construction, like I'm saying, like just even the double dragon is something we haven't really seen in a bit because of the lack of fairy types in the format. And you know, there's a long storied history of this game being dominated by double dragon cores, going back 15 years in VGC. So it definitely has the potential for sure.
I'm excited to like pick up and try and play that team. Like that one I'm actually pretty pumped about. Other thing from Joinville, looking through a decent chunk more Talonflame. I didn't really recall seeing that. Decent amount of just like Tailwind that kind of didn't make it. I was kind of talking about like I didn't know how the double dragons would fare against Tailwind. Apparently okay, because like Talonflame, Murkrow, Talonflame.
Yeah, I think there's like 4 in top 16.
There's a Poliwrath in 17th place. I don't know what. Bro thinks he's on the team. What is this?
He is on the team. Choice Band Swift Swim, bro.
Bro, Haze? We're desperate out here.
Choice Band Haze is hilarious. That
is actually awesome.
That's like the people back in the day that used to run Choice Specs Protect Sylveon, which was like a real, genuine meta strat back in the day. Like, Choice Band Haze is awesome.
You know what? They really just opened up Showdown and they searched Haze and they're like, I can make this work.
Oh, another middling water type that gets access to Haze. All right, cool. I'll dig it.
We're desperate out here. That's hilarious. I love that.
How about the one Hisuian Decidueye in top 16 here? Also has Ninetales on the... No, I opened the wrong team. Hold on. I'm dumb.
Yeah, you're a little silly. It has double dragons.
Oh, you know what? The link links to somewhere else different. I did click the correct link, but it opens a Ninetales team. So it's Hisuian Decidueye, Hydreigon, Tyranitar, Goldengo, Indeedee, Dragapult. Kind of slaps.
Yeah, I don't think anything could beat the Haze Choice Band Poliwrath for me personally, but like Hisuian Decidueye is kind of cool. But Poliwrath is cooler, unfortunately. That's crazy. 6-2 with Choice Band Haze Poliwrath. I love it.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
I would imagine in those 8 rounds, he probably only clicked Haze once in those 8 rounds.
Yo, but that one time that you played against that one Dondozo player, they're looking at the team sheet and they're like, you gotta be kidding
Also,
Like,
could you
oh,
imagine
really?
back in the day, pre-open team sheet, you're playing a best of 3 and you get like washed by this pod, and you're like, man, that's gotta be choice band. That's so much damage. And then game 2 starts and he clicks A's on you. I'd throw my 3DS. I would go, nope, can't do this.
Oh my god. The real thing that open team sheet took away from us. That's awesome. That's a fun one. But yeah, I like the Joinville teams a lot more. There's a couple Sneaslers, but like not really. Just like there's 1 and 3rd, 1 and 9.
We haven't talked about Vivian. That's another
Vivian.
Vivian that
Vivian.
has Rage Powder, which is effectively Follow Me, and I think that's a Pokemon that hasn't been very valuable over the last decade and has become viable because this format doesn't have the legendaries in it.
Plus fast sleep powder.
Right.
People love their sleep powder. Garte.
Bro, remember the freaking G-Max Butterfree stuff in Sword and Shield? Oh my
I like that was
God.
I think just short. Like that was kind of, I think, dying down when I hopped in. Like it was.
Where was it? You could either get a sleep or a paralysis off of its G-Max attack, and it was like, oh.
Yeah, because I started playing Series 5, and like the Series 5 when I started playing was Draft League, so it's like
yeah,
I didn't play like the most.
It was a really interesting team. It was like, I think it was Fake Out, or no, sorry, I meant Focus Sash, not Fake Out. I think it was like Focus Sash.
Fake Out Butterfree?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. I meant to say Focus Sash with like Rage Powder, and it was a Trick Room team. So like you could also have Trick Room sweepers like Rhyperior and other stuff, and then you just use Sleep Powder because of Compound Eyes to like you could set up your Trick Room easier if you put the threat to sleep. Like it was a cool team, but it was very restrictive, kind of like the 6 size spam is right now in this format, where like it's the same 6 Pokemon no matter what you do. Like that was kind of how that Butterfree team was constructed. Like, it was very precise and won in very small margins. It was not like a well-rounded team, but it was cool.
Sounds annoying.
It was annoying. It's cool for if you're playing it. Annoying if you're playing against
it. Or the classic.
The classic VGC.
The classic. I mean, yeah, Vivian just fast sleep powder I think is always going to be good in a format. Other like fast sleep powders in Sun are kind of volatile. Compound Eyes, you got a good fast sleep powder. So pretty aight, but going to be more competitions coming up. Louisville is next weekend. LEIC finally just did their second registration as well. I officially did not register. So
oh my God, you had my heartstrings going there. I was like, oh, is there an announcement?
No, I didn't read. Like, I find it so, like, I don't know. I really want to go and compete and play at events, but the fact that you can't get refunded and you have to sign up instantly or else you can't go is just like, I don't know. I'm kind of demotivated, a little like dejected from it. Like
it's a silly strategy for sure. We can say that.
Like I completely willing. Like I booked my flight for Japan 2 weeks out. Like I decided last second I was gonna go, and like I'm willing to bet you gave me a week and a half, and I'd be like, yeah, I do want to go to LASC. I've been helping my friends prep. I've been watching them talk about their teams. I want to go. I want to compete.
Yeah.
And I would have tried to sign up, or like I would have had the sign up and I would have been like, yeah, I do actually want to go. Or I'd be like, oh no, I can't really afford it and I'd cancel and it's fine. But now that I'm like, well, I'm 50-50, I don't want to waste $50. That's $50.
Right.
How many Pokemon cards I can buy with that? Like,
yeah, it's if you're on the fence, like the answer, it has to be no in this environment. Even if 2 weeks from now you decide oh man, I wish I went. As of the registration going live, your answer had to be no because you didn't know the answer, which is just very.
I also don't want to take a spot from somebody else. That's another thing. Is like, I know like my friends that missed out on NAIC last year, my friends that missed out on EUIC. And so I would feel terrible for registering, taking a spot and deciding not to go, and it doesn't get reallotted to somebody who would have gone, right? So I just, I can't justify it. I can't do it. And it just kind of has me like, I don't know, a little bummed because I know after Louisville, I'm going to watch Louisville and I'm going to be like, I'm so like, I want to go compete. I can win an event. And then I'm gonna be like, well, I can't because I didn't register because
you lose 100% of the events you don't register for, Sierra.
yep,
That's sage advice.
yep. So yeah, that's kind of but I saw quite a few like players didn't get in. It'll be interesting too, specifically with the ICs, the conversation about the points that you get at ICs and for invites.
Yeah.
That will be something that I don't think we'll see maybe the consequences or like the results of until probably about May as we're approaching NAIC. But I think that'll be quite a hot topic around there with the points and how they add up.
I mean, like, some people already have like 400 CP. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. We
yeah.
literally just got into October, and some people already have 400 CP. Like,
yeah, the week that you were gone, me, Ugarte, and Brady actually had a pretty big conversation about like the point leaderboard and where we thought it would end up in comparison to, because there ended up being like, I can't quite remember the numbers. I had it looked up at the spot, but like just over 75 at like the 500 like threshold.
yeah.
But those were all people that had stopped playing too, or like not all, but like a good chunk of them. Like they got their invite and they stopped playing. Because why would you need to grind out more points, right?
So
like it's not necessarily reflective of like the bottom bar for what a top 75 would look like.
So is the question how many people are going to get 500 or more points, or is it what is the 75th player's CP total?
What the 75th player is going to be?
I think I think the top bar could honestly be 1600. Like, if some people are already at 500 and 400, and we've had one.
Oh, I'm saying like that 75th spot.
No, I know. So I'm saying if you break it down from there, I think it's got to be at least 700.
Okay, I thought you were saying the bar was 1500.
No. I'm saying I think the first place person, if they do well and hit all their BFLs or whatever, might have like 1700 points or something. So if we extrapolate that down to 75th, I think you're probably going to need well over 700 CP to hit top 75. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
I previously thought it was going to be around the 600 mark, but I kind of seeing how quickly some people are getting points.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it'll like the people that will be able to afford to go to a good chunk as long as they can perform decent enough, that bar is going to be very high. If people are taking up spots and they're just going for fun or they're just not performing well, it's going to drag the whole bar down, which would be good for other people. So it'll be interesting. Like I don't know. There's just thoughts that are running through my mind seeing the IC coming up because it's a lot of points on the line.
Yeah, that's going to inject a lot of points into the format.
So, yeah, we'll see. That's still a month out. The other announced that have been announced today though, because there has sometimes they announce events a little later on the upcoming events for NA. They had a couple of TBD slots. And one of those has been announced, San Antonio in January. So, and then one that, it's a special event in Puerto Rico that they're having, not a regional, but a special event. So, two events that were announced today.
No, that's awesome. Happy for San Antonio. I had an absolute blast last season in San Antonio. That was my first time ever visiting. You were accidentally in Texas, but not for Pokemon at the same time. We had so much fun. We went out onto like the Riverwalk and got dinner with all the boats passing by, and like me and Aaron were waving and like to all the people singing Christmas songs on the boats and stuff. Every time they passed, we would just go like every time, and they would wave back. We're like, yes. So it was that San Antonio was an awesome time. So I'm so happy that we have San Antonio Regionals back. Even if it's January, it's not going to have the holiday spirit.
Yeah, it won't be the Christmas one. That'll be Toronto.
Yeah. Well, we're not going outside in Toronto. We go outside. San Antonio December was like 73 degrees, but
bring a jacket.
Toronto, I'll bring a couple, actually.
Yeah. No, it actually does get like disastrously cold. It's not fun. It's not fun. There is funny enough for Toronto, a pretty good underground system in like that main core for walking. they had like their subways, but then also there's like malls and shops and stuff underneath, and it's all like completely done. I don't know the layout, but I have definitely, especially in winter, have walked from point A to point B like 20 minutes completely underground in a very nice area.
Okay.
And then like just go up right at the last point. So that's something to keep in mind. I don't think people will be wandering around too much and like everyone's visiting, so it's like people Uber, but like that is a possibility depending on where you're going and if you're with someone who knows the area enough.
Okay. Just gotta make sure we get ramen. That's my only request.
Good. There's also, I know it's the cliche, like esports people go and get KBBQ and blah blah blah. Toronto has amazing KBBQ. There is this one place. Oh my god, it is amazing. It is every other KBBQ place that I've gone to has not stood up to this. Like I've gone to like there was one I think I went to and in Florida and like the others are like, this is so good. And I'm like, I feel like no. Ew. This is garbage. Like Toronto's so good. So good. There's also this one fusion place that's absolutely amazing. I know like a bunch of the spots. Don't worry.
We've got time. Yeah, we'll hit up the hot spots for sure.
Yeah, it'll be good. But yeah, he announced a couple of the things done. Louisville is next weekend. We're not going to talk really about Louisville because that will be next week's episode.
Do we put the plush online at Louisville or do we wait? When do we put the plush on the line for our predictions? Since we miss Worlds.
We'll talk about it, and if it is for Louisville, and if anyone has any ideas of when we can have a plush on the line, because I have a lot of spots on my shelf. I could use another plush. So, because I literally lost last time, so.
Yeah, right. I was like, should I break out the Emolga plush right now that I won for my correct predictions last time, or?
No, but last but not least, we have our question of the week. So I know that I was annoying and like added at here in the Discord. Yes. Any questions coming in or?
So we do have a couple. One of them is really.
One from Aldrich. Why did he not watch Dortmund? Do you hate EU? Aldrich, the time zone is not friendly. I was sleeping.
Well, you were gaming first and then sleeping. You know?
Yeah.
And
true.
then and then you were dreaming about Maddie Morgan losing in the finals and then he lost in the finals, which is crazy to me that you had that dream. That's actually crazy.
Dude, I think it's because like Maddie was playing on stream, so then I was like, Maddie's playing, and then like my dream just like turned it to Maddie's gonna lose. Like, yeah, I don't know, but I'm telling you, it was crazy because I thought that I had missed finals when I had like started like half waking up. Because I was like, Maddie lost, and then it wasn't finals yet. Crazy.
There's a really cool baseball question that I'll answer off. I'll answer off broadcast, just to let you know, because you don't do baseball and stuff, which is fine. But just wanted to give Bartlett a shout out. That's a really cool question that I'll ask. But we have a fun one from Queenie. It's not going to be our question of the week. It's just I want to address it. Give them a shout out. How many mouse could a mouse hold house if a mouse hold could house mouse? It's a thinker. It's a tough question.
Well, it's either 3 or 4. It's the only 2 forms that we have. Majority of the time it's 4. Some of the times it's only 3. Some of those houses be a little small.
You never know. But our actual question of the week is going to be from Lebanon Don. And they say, do you think a regulation where you can have more than one restricted on your team, but can only bring one into battle would actually be something fun? Now, that's interesting because we've had many different restricted formats in the last 15 years of VGC. You used to be able to have 3 restricted on your team back in the day. And, that was like just super crazy. No wild west out there. Then you've had 2 on your team. And then now you had 1 in this spot. Like, I think. I guess I'll let you go first here. I'll let you say. Would that be a fun format? You can have more than 1 legendary or restricted Pokemon on your team, but you can only bring 1 per battle.
Maybe this isn't giving credit to the team building and the ability to check, but my first thought is that sounds like the worst games of rock, paper, scissors, where like you lose the rock, paper, scissors, and instead of being able to move on to the next rock, paper, scissors, you then have to play out for the next 10, 15 minutes when you already knew that you lost to then play rock, paper, scissors again. Like, that's definitely not giving credit to how like you would check and stuff, but I think that realistically it would become really weird because you'd be building your other 4 Pokemon around these 2, so they'd be kind of split. If you're trying to have 2 different restricteds that then, oh, I could bring this one to check this or bring one to check this, it's the rock, paper, scissors. If you bring 2 options that are just kind of consistent against the field, well, then you are okay only bringing the one. Or if it's not really consistent, it depends on what you're going up against. Well, then your opponent has their 2 and you don't know which one they're going to bring, right? Like, I think it gets weird. Like, obviously, when we do have a restricted and a double restricted formats, like, you don't always bring both your restricteds, but that's then your choice. I feel like restricteds are so strong that, like, especially if you have 2 restricteds on your team, you're not going to leave both at home you can only bring one format. So, like, I think it just becomes weirdly 50-50 on the team preview more than team previews can already be 50-50.
Yeah, I definitely understand where you come from, because that could be really frustrating if, like, my first thought of this question is like, oh my god, we go back to 2016 and your 2 restricteds are Primal Kyogre and Primal Groudon, and you choose one of them per game based on what the other team's matchup is, right? If you think Groudon's better or Kyogre's better. That's my first thought, and I'm like, that seems really fun to me, because sometimes people did run double primals teams, and like sometimes you have anti-synergy if they both at the field or had the wrong weather out at the wrong time, so they kind of hurt each other. So like inherently, this type of format intrigues me from like a team building perspective, because like, do you just take the 2 most busted, like, do you just take Ice Rider and Shadow Rider as your 2 restricteds and then put 4 good mons on the good stuffs on the other 4 slots, and then it kind of doesn't matter which restriction you have because you have a generally solid team? Or do you go like 2 total different ends? Do you go a Ice Rider and then Miraidon, and you have both speed tiers covered in case you're fighting a Trick Room team or a super fast team or something like? So in my head, I think it could be a really fun team building exercise. I do agree with you. How the format would play out would be rock, paper, scissors, which is, why when they used to have 3 legendaries and used to have no open or no team preview and stuff back in the day, and it was kind of just a random roulette of what you couldn't really guess what your opponent was going to do. I could understand that as being a very divisive format. So like, would it be the best format of all time? No, but I do think it would be a rewarding format from a team building and exercising decisions perspective.
And I think it's definitely something that could maybe work a lot better than how I'm thinking it's going to work. It'd be one of those things that I have to see, but it could maybe play out okay. I would just be worried about the different modes. Because, like, I don't know. Because it's, like, realistically, I'm sure, like, there's somebody listening that's like, well, technically now on Team Preview, especially if you have a double restricted where you can bring both, you could just bring one, and they could be 2 different modes. It's just, like, if you're kind of building around having the 2, you want something that pairs up. If you build around only wanting one, you could just do some crazy stuff, which I think would be the issue. But I think there's a possibility it could work.
Because my other thought is it depends on the power level of the format, right? Because I think of Gen 6, Gen 7 Xerneas, that if Xerneas was one of your, especially with Smeargle and Dark Void, if Xerneas was one of your 2 restricteds, the odds that you would bring the second restricted instead of Xerneas is almost non-existent, right? In a match, unless your opponent had literally 6 steel types on their team, 5 steel types and a poison type on their team. You would literally never bring the other restricted because it was that much stronger than the rest of the field. And like, if we go to Sword and Shield, like, you probably, if you had Zacian plus other restricted, you probably would choose Zacian as your 1 restricted of your 4 Pokemon in like 85% of the games. It doesn't matter what the other Pokemon was. So maybe the format wouldn't be as open as I first thought, because like the stronger, if you have Miraidon on your team, you're probably bringing that to like 80% of your games compared to your other restricted, because you probably have to build your team around having Miraidon and Electric Terrain and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe like, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't be as rewarding as I'm thinking. I don't know.
I think it's just weird because it's like, oh, I have a Miraidon and I have an Ice Rider, and then I have 4 good Pokemon. And if you lead thinking that I'm bringing this Ice Rider and I
Yeah.
lead Miraidon, you're cooked. You're done, buddy. So I don't know. But I had to take a picture of my cat. He's like half laying on the desk, half laying on my lap. I'll post it in the Discord. Good reason to join the Discord.
There you go.
Like,
nice plug.
What is bro doing?
Also, thank you, speaking of the Discord, everybody that voted in the poll last week. For those who didn't know, Superior won the OHKO team poll over the other grass starter types. So if you're interested in helping our community build a fun Superior team, join the Discord and chat in the OHKO team chat. Any other reasons to promote the Discord? I'm trying to think while we're here. I don't know. Have fun.
Question of the week. People always chat. They'll do little launch parties during broadcasts.
True.
People post pictures of their pet. My pet is trying to show his butt on camera, like the whole behind of it. If you enjoy talking teams and stuff, people will be talking through teams. We'll plan like the BBQs and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot going on. Good place to be. All right. Anything else for this week from us, Joe Brown?
No, I do think Dortmund was good. Shout outs to the British dudes. They all did a great job. Shout outs to Lee in specific. He's my favorite. He's my hero. But yeah, besides that, excited for our predictions for Louisville next week, because I think they also said it's the first time Kentucky's ever held a large scale Pokemon event in all these years, so that should be exciting.
Let's go. That'll be cool then. So yeah, if that's it from us, my cat is getting like cat hair up my nose. We're gonna end this before I sneeze. If you made it to this point in the episode, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to let us know what you think. Join the Discord to get included on the conversations. And follow or subscribe or just bookmark the page so you can come back for next week, where we'll be having our Louisville predictions, talking all about the event, and maybe a special guest. Who knows? We'll see. We'll talk about it after. But yeah, thank you all so much for listening to the support. As always, we'll see you next week for the next episode of OHKO. Till then, take care.